call, you ready? Mics are live.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Little Rock Planning Commission, September 24th session. If you'll be kind enough to call the roll, please.
Commissioner Berry, Commissioner Benton,
Present.
Commissioner Brock, Commissioner Brooks,
Present.
Vice Chair Hamilton,
Present.
Commissioner Hart,
Here.
Commissioner Haynes,
Here.
Chairman Latour, Commissioner Rahman,
Here.
Commissioner Thomas,
Here.
and Commissioner Vogel.
Here.
You have a quorum.
On the minutes,
You need to approve the minutes from July 16th.
okay. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting, please, sir.
I
Somebody?
so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Berry, Commissioner Benton,
Yes.
Commissioner Brock, Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Yes.
Commissioner Hart,
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes,
Yes.
Chairman Latour,
Yes.
Commissioner Rahman,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
and Commissioner Vogel.
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
We're going to do something a little differently. On item 12, I'll ask the staff to explain where we are, and we'll go from there.
On item number 12, which is the file number Z4933J, Splash Car Wash and Oil Revised PCD at 15707 Chenal Parkway. This issue, we need to address a possible bylaw waiver for the notifications. As you know, the notifications for PCD zoning is required to be mailed out 15 days, at least 15 days prior to the public hearing to all property owners within 200 feet of the subject property by way of a list from an abstract company. This particular applicant did all of that correctly, with the exception of the notice form had the incorrect date on it. It was dated the 17th of September, which was last Thursday. When we became aware of that, we immediately got with the applicant, and the applicant did send out a second notice, which they mailed out Wednesday of last week. They mailed it out again to all property owners within 200 feet, and it was mailed registered express next day mail. And the applicant asked to do that and go ahead and come to today's meeting to keep the item on the agenda and ask the commission to waive your bylaws and accept their notification as they completed it. A couple of things about the notice. Again, the date that they put on the original notice was last Thursday. That notice went out. We received no comments, phone calls, anything from anyone based on that first notice that went out, as well as the second notice. So with that being said, staff does support the bylaw waiver. We feel that the notice is adequate, that is done by the applicant. And at this point, I'll defer to the applicant for any further explanation of the notice.
Yeah, thank you, Monty. Appreciate that. Yeah, as Monty said, we were notified by Planning Commission, by staff, that the notice had the incorrect date. Immediately, we overnighted a letter, a revised application notice with a letter explaining the issue with that. And so we would just ask that timing is very important for this deal. We'd like to start construction immediately, and we would ask that you would consider waiving that to hear us on the agenda today. And I believe we're on the consent agenda if we can do that.
How many people have to vote to pass
Okay, the
this?
question before us is to waive the bylaws, and assuming you do, this item will go to consent agenda.
Chairman Latour, quick question. how many people have to vote for it to pass the bylaws?
I can answer that. In order to waive the bylaws, you need a 3/4 majority of the commissioners present, which I believe would be 6 today.
Another quick question. How many people did you have to notify? Or entities, whatever?
11.
11?
Yeah, and today we haven't had any calls or questions regarding the project.
Did we have a meeting previously scheduled on that date, or was it just a clerical error?
On your original calendar, which basically was scrapped in March, it did have a last week's date on it.
Thank you.
And I would like to add that all the other notification is correct. The legal ad was correct, published in the newspaper, as well as a sign posted on the property.
Any other questions?
I presume no one has reached out to the staff to note this discrepancy or to claim that they haven't had time or were in some way misled by the original erroneous notice.
That is correct. We've had no calls, no correspondence on this item.
No one is here to oppose it?
I don't believe we have any cards either.
No cards.
I move that we grant the waiver.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, Moved and seconded that we grant the waiver. If you'll call the roll, please, sir.
Commissioner Berry, Commissioner Betton,
Yes.
Commissioner Brock, Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hamilton,
Yes.
Commissioner Hart,
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes,
Yes.
Chairman Latour.
Yes, but with a comment that my WebEx has gone away and maybe the others have, and that's why they're not voting.
Okay.
Did you guys come on? The second time. Okay.
Chair, we was having some feedback issues with some of the remote commissioners, and so we muted them until the vote. That's why.
Okay, so continuing, Commissioner Rahman,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
and Commissioner Vogel.
Yes.
The motion passes, so item 12 will be moved to the consent agenda for approval.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and with that, if you'll take us through the consent agenda to start.
Following is the consent agenda for the Little Rock Planning Commission, September 24th, 2020. You have 4 items on consent withdrawal. Item 3, file number Z7500G, Hamilton Apartments, PDR, immediately north of 14524 and 14810 Cantrell Road. The applicant submitted a letter to staff on August 22nd, 2020, requesting this application be withdrawn. Staff supports that request. Item number 5, Z9524, Woodland Park, PRD, 13701 Canis Road. The applicant submitted a letter to staff on September 4th requesting this application be withdrawn without prejudice. Staff supports that request. Item number 9, Z5096D, a rezoning from PCD to O3 and C3, southeast and southwest corners of Canis Road and Woodlands Trail. The applicant submitted a letter to staff on September 4th requesting this application be withdrawn without prejudice. Staff supports that request. And item number 11, Z3457A, Riverwalk Properties Duplexes, PRD, southwest corner of East 17th Street and Cumberland Street. The applicant submitted a letter to staff on September 23rd requesting this application be withdrawn. Staff supports withdrawal request. Next, you have 3 items on consent deferral. Item B, Z9508, Posh Automotive Short Form PCD, 8900 Colonel Glenn Road. The applicant submitted a letter to staff on August 24th requesting this application be deferred to the October 29th agenda. The applicant has hired a design professional to provide a site plan for the proposed development, and staff supports the deferral request. Item number 8, Z567A, a rezoning from I-2 to R4, 1800 East 3rd Street. The applicant failed to send the required notifications to surrounding property owners. Therefore, staff recommends this application be deferred to the October 29th agenda. Item 14, Z9529, Ali Duplexes, PRD, 7520 North Chico Road. The applicant submitted a letter to staff on September 8th, 2020, requesting this application be deferred to the October 29th agenda, and staff supports that request. Next are the items on consent approval. Item number 1, S1877, Quick Trip 7211, preliminary plat, I-30 at Otter Creek Road. Staff recommends approval of the proposed preliminary plat and lot width to depth variance, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and E and the staff analysis of the agenda staff report. Item number 7, the intent to zone the southeast planning area. Staff recommends approval. Item number 10, Z9530, a rezoning from AF to R4, 4920 Fraser Pike. Staff recommends approval of the requested R4 rezoning. Item number 12, Z4933J, Splash Car Wash Oil and Oil, revised PCD 15707 Chenal Parkway. Staff recommends approval of the requested PCD zoning, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F, and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. Item 13, Z8089A, Butler Minor Auto Repair, PCD 12601 Alexander Road. Staff recommends approval of the requested PCD zoning, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and E, and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. Item 15, LA 56B, Colonel Glenn Lawson Road Advanced Grading Variance Renewal, northwest corner of Colonel Glenn Road and Lawson Road. Staff recommends approval of the advanced grading variance request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D and E of the agenda staff report. In addition to paragraphs D and E, the variance request is subject to compliance with the following conditions. A 50-foot undisturbed buffer should be maintained along the western and northern property lines. A berm will be constructed adjacent to Colonel Glenn Road to a height sufficient to provide visual screening of the completed area from the adjacent properties and the streets. A berm will be constructed adjacent to the east property line to a height sufficient to provide visual screening of the completed area from adjacent properties and the streets. The existing erosion and sediment control must be maintained and reworked as needed to reduce sediment loss and to maximize to the maximum extent practicable. A diversion ditch should be constructed on the north side of Colonel Glenn Road to the existing ditches. Existing sediment and debris in the ditch and off-site sediment deposits should be removed. Item 17, LA 89, Parkland Heights Advanced Grading Variance, east side of Shannon Boulevard, north of Highway 10. Staff recommends approval of the advanced grading variance request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D and E of the agenda staff report. In addition to the comments in paragraphs D and E, the variance request is subject to compliance with the following conditions. A grading permit in accordance with section 29186C and D will be required prior to any land clearing or grading activities at the site. A special flood hazard development permit will be obtained prior to issuance of a grading permit. Orange fencing will be installed along all undisturbed buffers and floodway to prevent entry prior to the beginning of tree removal. Erosion and sediment controls are required to be installed and maintained during the clearing and filling activities. And all trees within the area to be advanced graded will be removed prior to commencing the filling activities. That concludes the consent agenda.
In the interest of fairness, pardon me, a nice lady named Michelle that I wouldn't attempt to pronounce wanted to speak on item number 5. Item number 5 actually has been withdrawn. So, Michelle, I'm sorry we didn't get to you, but since your item's been withdrawn, it's unnecessary. Having said that, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Been moved. How about a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. If you're in favor, you're not going to just say yes when he calls you.
Okay. Commissioner Berry, Commissioner Benton,
Yes.
Commissioner Brock, Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Yes.
Commissioner Hart,
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes,
Yes.
Chairman Latour,
Yes.
Commissioner Rahman,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
and Commissioner Vogel.
Yes.
The consent agenda is approved.
Thank you. We'll now go to the regular agenda. Item A, Goodwin Manor, Z9500. I have no cards, but I do have a note that two folks would like to speak on it via WebEx. Are they here? Dr. Michael Spann and Ms. Fletcher Priest. Well, I presume if there's no opposition, we just go ahead.
Okay. On item A, you're speaking, I think you have some cards on item A.
No, I was incorrect. You got to watch me like a hawk. Michelle Bowman.
Mr. Chair, would you like for us to give the staff report? Go.
Please read it into the record.
Okay.
Then we'll do it.
Yes, it's been added.
I'm sorry, what?
There's been a person added on WebEx to speak on this item when we get to that point.
I got you.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and
Okay.
read the item into the record.
Okay, item A, file number Z9500. This is a Goodwin Manor long form PCD located at 3708 Garrison Road. This property at 3807 Garrison Road has been the residence of the applicants for approximately 25 years. For several years recently, they've allowed portions of their home and property be used to host charitable events and weddings on a limited basis. The property is located within the city's extraterritorial zoning jurisdiction and is zoned R2 single-family residential. A zoning violation notice was sent to the applicants in October 2019, making them aware that the operation of an event center on this property is not allowed within the R2 zoning district. And therefore, the applicants have filed to rezone the property to a PCD designation to allow the event center use. On a limited number of occasions, generally 12 to 15 per year, the applicants allow the property to be used for private parties and charitable events. Additionally, the applicants allow 15 to 20 weddings per year to be conducted on the property. No more than 5 rooms of the home are utilized for these charity events and weddings, and access to the property, which is approximately 80 acres in size, is via a private road. The applicants indicated that weddings are typically on Saturdays and concluded by 10 p.m. in order to comply with the Pulaski County noise ordinance and out of the respect for the neighbors. Other events are usually in the early evenings on weeknights and are also over by 10 p.m. Occasionally there are luncheons on weekdays. The applicant has stated that they do not allow the use of their home during the holidays. No signage is proposed by the applicants to identify the event center use. The site plan submitted by the applicant shows a future 40 foot by 80 foot outbuilding located near the parking area. They have no immediate plans to construct the building at this time, but when the building is constructed, it would primarily be used as a multi-purpose building for use by the applicants or property owners. The parking area is unimproved and is situated on either side of the asphalt drive leading up to the home. 3 ADA van accessible parking spaces are provided, as well as 2 additional ADA spaces on the asphalt near the entrance to the home. The applicants state there are wide entry doors on the front of the home with a ramp provided as necessary, and guests are limited to the first floor of the home. Restroom doors are wide, and the space is large enough to accommodate wheelchairs. Staff would suggest the following conditions with this proposed PCD designation. The event center use is secondary to the residential use of the property. The use of the property will revert back to single-family use should the ownership of the property be transferred from the current owners. The days and hours of operation of the event center are to be limited to Monday through Saturday between the hours of 9 a.m. and 10 p.m. No additional permanent structures are allowed other than the single proposed outbuilding as shown on the site plan. The event center shall be operated in compliance with the Pulaski County Noise Ordinance. No more than 200 guests will be allowed at any single event, and the assurance that ADA standards for parking access and restrooms are addressed as applicable to this facility. We did provide a staff update in the staff analysis since the last meeting, and I'll read that as follows. The applicant submitted a letter to staff on August 18th, 2020, agreeing to have the PCD zoning conditioned upon the ownership and occupancy of the property by Gary and Andrea Goodwin. If the Goodwins ever sell or vacate the property, the PCD zoning will become null and void, with the property reverting back to its original R2 single-family residential zoning and use. The applicants also noted that hours of operation will include occasional Sunday events with hours limited to 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Otherwise, to staff's knowledge, there are no outstanding issues associated with this application. Staff recommendation: staff recommends approval of the PCD subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F, the staff analysis, and the staff update in the agenda staff report.
Okay, first we'll hear, well, let me back up. I remind everybody that we give each side up to 20 minutes. So the applicant will have up to 20 minutes, and any of the people that oppose it collectively will have up to 20 minutes. If you don't need it, that's fine. So we'll start with the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Andy Francis. I'm an attorney here representing my client, Goodwin Manor. Ms. Andrea Goodwin, my client's representative, is here with me. Thank you for the opportunity to represent you. If it's all right with you, I'm keeping track of my time. I'd like to reserve 5 minutes of my time to respond to any questions or issues that may come up. Thanks to staff for working with us on this. One of the issues about this is kind of the designation of this as an event center. My clients have lived in the Ferndale neighborhood for a couple of decades. They've operated their weddings and other charitable events hosted at their home for probably, this is the 6th year, I think. These events happen no more often than once a weekend. That would typically be a wedding. There may be a charitable dinner one time during the week. They'll never do more than one event during the week and one event on the weekend. There may occasionally be a wedding that happens during the week, but those will mostly be charitable events and luncheons. The part of this issue with the designation as a commercial venue has been a point we've had to discuss with staff. Initially, we approached staff with the intent to do this as a home occupation license designation. Staff said that they felt it would be better placed as a commercial development. My clients certainly do not see this as a commercial development. They very much feel they're part of the community in Ferndale. This happens at their home where they raise their family. As staff said, this is only a secondary event, use event to their home. There has been some issues about the access to this property. This property is accessed over an easement that runs from Canis Road north to the client's property, and then runs from the client's property again north to Garrison Road. There has been some dispute with some of the neighbors over the easement. Some of the neighbors, they hired an attorney, they sent out a demand letter. I included that in a packet of information I submitted to the board. And they demanded that the Goodwins stop using the easement for any commercial purpose. I don't think you want to get into it, but if you do, I've included a copy of the easement in my materials. It specifically says the easement can be used by invitees, who are people who come to your property for a business purpose. That's a very specific definition under Arkansas law. I kind of feel like the dispute over this easement has caused some people to create an issue over this use of the property to bring it here to the city. I'm not saying that's every objector who has come forward today, but the important points we want to make is that this is only a temporary use. It's secondary to the Goodwin's home, that once they sell their home, it will revert back to its original residential zoning. The scope of this property is enormous. This is on 80 acres. I do realize there's one property that is adjacent, more than one property that's adjacent to it. One person sent a letter saying that they wanted to build a house that would be closer to the property line, but the way I measured it on Google Earth to the existing house, it's several hundred feet to the nearest existing house, 700 or 800 feet to the nearest house. Regarding access up and down the easement, we're certainly not in control of whatever Google Earth or Google Maps might show when you input address and show a direction. However, my clients have taken steps to ensure that people don't access the property from the south. They try to direct everyone to access the property from the north off of Garrison Road. And if, Walter, if you could scroll to the photograph at the beginning of my materials that shows the gate. The Goodwins had an enormous gate built at the south end of their property. This is on the easement. This photo is taken from the easement looking north onto the Goodwins property. You can see the Suburban parked behind the gate for some scale. That's kept closed during events to prevent people from traveling south down the easement across the neighbors' properties. Some of the issues that have come up, I'll certainly be happy to respond to them as they come up, but there's always the discussion of traffic. This property is accessed from, in this area, Garrison, Canis, and Ferndale Cutoff. Those are some of the largest designations of roads within the county. We are in the extraterritorial jurisdiction, and in fact, on the very western edge, the frontier of the extraterritorial jurisdiction. I think any traffic generated by these events is going to be more than handled by the capacity of these large streets. There were some comments about well water and septic system potential problems from these events with well water and septic system. One, I don't think any of those problems have ever occurred. Second, there was a review of this application, as with all applications, by city staff. Little Rock Water Reclamation Authority had no comment. They made the point that they don't serve this area. Central Arkansas Water also does not serve this area. There were some comments about concerns about property valuation. I don't think there really is any question that the property out here is holding and increasing in value. My clients live here. This is their primary home. They have an enormous investment in it, and they certainly don't want to do anything that would impact adversely their property values or those of their neighbors. There was some comment about emergency response times. Again, that's handled by the county. It's outside of the city's, outside of the city limits. There was one recent unfortunate event where a guest at the wedding had a cardiac event. They called emergency services. They responded within minutes. They had no problem reaching the property and providing assistance to this person. So again, there hasn't been any shown problem that there is any issue with problems with access to the property. And to the extent they are, I'd respectfully say they probably are best addressed by the county, who is in charge of responding to it. There was a copy of a bill of assurance that was submitted to staff that mentioned the property was not to be used for commercial purposes. That was a bill of assurance that my clients prepared and filed years ago in conjunction with sale of part of their property. None of the objectors here are entitled to enforce that. I know the city doesn't enforce bills of assurance, but I wanted to make it clear that even if some one of these people wanted to try to enforce that bill of assurance, we think that provision has been waived and they don't have any right under the document to enforce it. Noise is always a concern. The county has regulated noise in the county for years. They have their own ordinance. Whatever happens here tonight, this property is and will remain subject to the Pulaski County Noise Ordinance, and my clients have committed to complying with that. One of the objectors did mention that they have a lot that abuts directly to my client's eastern property line. What my client is proposing, I mentioned this to staff, I don't know if Monty covered this. My client wanted to propose a 150-foot setback from the east property line for the wedding events, so that no wedding-related event would actually take place, no service of food, no reception within that 150 feet. That does encompass part of the easement and parking lot. They would certainly conduct their parking and ingress and egress through the easement on that, but we did want to make that as an accommodation to the neighbor about the proximity of this house she planned to build to the Goodwin property. So we're proposing a 150-foot setback from the eastern property line, and we hereby make that amendment to our application. There was some discussion about the outbuilding. That was something that is proposed by my client when they first met with staff. They encouraged them to show any buildings that they may include in the future. And they did include this. There are no immediate plans to build the structure. Again, it's going to be on their house. They have a magnificent estate, which is the entire character of their property that they're trying to maintain. If they do build this, it's not going to be some barn. They're going to have something that's going to be architecturally compatible with the property and be a complement to the entire property that would be multi-use for the family themselves. And if they did have an event, it could provide some additional inside space for the event. So I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have, or we're happy to hear from the other parties that are here, and I'd like to reserve the balance of my time to respond.
Thank you. I have several cards and the two folks via WebEx. Let's start with the cards. Michelle Bowman. I'm sorry, Michael. I'm so sorry. I can't read. Michael.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Is the mayor here this evening?
And before you start, remember that the total of you, and there are several, have 20 minutes total.
Yes, yes. Well, I appreciate your staff. It's nice, the board and everything. I'm here. I live at 3614 Garrison Road in Pulaski County, and I talked to the Goodwins about a month or so ago. Seem like very nice people. You know, I've got a beautiful place up there, no doubt about it. It's very beautiful. And I'm here. There was I didn't really have a problem with this deal until I found out the true story. And the true story is that they're charging these people for these weddings and stuff like that. I was under the impression they were just doing it for friends and neighbors or whatever, and stuff like that. And I've lived out there for 21 years, and the thing that gets me is why would they want to change the zoning from residential to commercial? Why can't they just get some kind of permit or some kind of something allowing them to have these type of situations where they can have their charity balls, their weddings, stuff like that? Is there anything? I mean, I don't have a problem with what they do, but when I found out they're charging, to me, that's a business. And that's a residential area. There are several people that have come to me complaining. I said, I can only do one thing. I can go down there and talk to them and see what's going on. I've talked to the neighbors. They're not very pleased with what's going on. I mean, whatever the Goodwins do is their business. But as far as changing from residential to commercial, people aren't going for it. I don't want it to happen, because if they change it, who's going to Joe Blow down the street? What if he wants to put a used car lot in? And he comes to the board and he goes, hey, I want to put this used car lot in here on Garrison Road, and y'all deny it. There's a lawsuit. You get somebody else down the road there that wants to put a garage and a car wash or whatever it is down the street, and you deny him. Well, you gave the Goodwins a permit where they could have the zoning for a commercial, but you won't let these people have it. There you are, another lawyer, another attorney, another waste of time and money. So I don't have a problem with what they do, but I don't think they should change the zoning. I don't want the zoning changed. I don't want my property zoning changed. And there's a lot of people there that are in their 70s. They go to bed at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. You know, me, I don't have a problem with the music and what goes on, but it's just, I think they'll leave it where it is. That's R2. I moved out there to get away from the city. I've been out there 21 years, and I don't live by a commercial property. And, that's basically, because what happens if a fire breaks out? My property adjacent to their property up on the side of the hill, we get a fire out there. How's the fire truck going to get out there? The road's not that wide enough. They can't come through my property. They don't get so much acreage over there to fight. And then what about the alcohol? When you have weddings, people are going to drink. I mean, I'm going to say I drink. If I go to a wedding, I'm going to have a couple cocktails. There's no doubt about it. But, but I'm not trying to be funny or anything. But I just would hate for, somebody at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I stay out late at night sometimes. I'm driving down Ferndale Cutoff, and some drunk runs over there and gets out in front of me. I hit him head on, And where have you been? Oh, I was up there at a wedding up there at the Goodwoods Manor, and I drank too much, There's got to be some kind of, stoppage or 3-drink limit or 2-drink limit or whatever. This is really a serious deal. I'm telling you, it really is. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that's really, mad. I could say something else, but I don't want to. But I think a lot of things that they've done has been real good, but I had no idea they were charging what they were charging for weddings. I thought they were just doing it just for the kindness of their heart. But I was wrong when I found out. I'd have been for it. If they weren't charging, I'd. Amount of time. So basically,
between you and everybody, you got 20 minutes. And
okay.
We're well into it.
Well, basically, I'm concerned. I've been, like I say, been out there 21 years. I got out of Little Rock because of what, because of the stuff going on, the businesses. That's basically all I have to say. I wish you'd, not make it happen. Leave it where it is. Leave it R2. Leave it residential, because I'm telling you what's going to happen. Somebody's going to put more more commercial businesses in there. And the road can't handle it. It's a little 2-lane road. So I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys listening to me. I hope, you realize what's going on and take it into consideration.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
I think it's Julie Favorite.
How much time is remaining?
Jamie, are you keeping time? Again?
14 minutes,
20 seconds. Welcome.
Oh, hello. My name's Julie Favorite, and I live on Reynolds Mountain. And I'd like to thank the committee for allowing us to have an opportunity to speak. And I am here to oppose the rezoning of Goodwin Manor residents from R2 to PCD. In February 2020, I learned that the Goodwins were operating a wedding venue and event center with only residential zoning. Knowing they have large events and applied for the rezoning, I became curious in the steps involved in starting such a business. So I started reading about the legal procedures to start a wedding venue and reception business. I wondered if the Goodwins had any of the certificates, permits, and licenses that were listed. The first one was a building permit, and I know that that will be required on their 3,200 square foot outbuilding. This building will be within approximately 200 feet of Lot 6, which we are getting ready to build a home on. This is on Reynolds Mountain side, which will not enhance the beauty of the mountain in any way. The business license, I spoke with the Secretary of State, City Hall, and County Clerk's Office and didn't find a record of a business license. Certificate of occupancy, which is good because there's a huge concern for fire safety. The Goodwin's front yard is usually packed full of vehicles during their wedding events. And excuse me. And I have often wondered what would happen if there was a fire. Someone could easily drop a cigarette or start a fire for any number of reasons in this heavily wooded mountainous area. There would be mass confusion on how to get everyone out. There's a narrow 1-lane road with a switchback that everyone enters, that everyone would exit while fire trucks and EMS would try to make their way up the mountain. And the road that they showed is not the road that is being used. There's one on the Garrison side that is much more narrow, and you will see pictures of that when Deb speaks, Deb Reynolds. And I spoke with the West Pulaski Fire Department, and there is not an evacuation plan for this location. liquor license. After discovering the pictures of alcohol being served at weddings and receptions at Goodwin Manor online, I called the ABC and spoke with their lawyer about the laws in Arkansas. I learned that a license is not required unless liquor is sold, even if zoning is approved for commercial. It is either purchased by the wedding party or hidden in other ways or charges. This raised even more of a concern because no one is regulating the amount of alcohol being served and who is serving it. And then Arkansas Bride Magazine advertises that the manor can hold up to 250 guests. And I know their proposal is 200, so maybe they'll have that changed. A large crowd would be difficult to monitor if there is a bar offered at an event. Drinking and driving in an unfamiliar area and on a dark one-lane road don't mix. There are many accidents out in the Ferndale area. We have lots of dangerous curves. Food handlers permit, similar to serving liquor, there are ways to get around it. Insurance, I do not know if they purchase liability insurance. Those are some of the major things that I found online that most businesses have to comply to. So in closing, I assume that the Goodwins had all these items in place when they started a business. I couldn't figure out how they got away with it living in a private, residential, gated community. Our community is all about family, friends, nature, wildlife, sunrise, and sunsets. And there's really no room for loud music, unknown visitors, lights, noise from traffic, vendors coming and going. It's just not the right location for a commercial business. There are many other reasons why I oppose the rezoning, and they will all be covered by my neighbors. Thank you all.
Thank you. How much time we got left? Good. You got 4 speakers in 10 minutes, so. Judd Tolson?
The original developer, I purchased that property 30 years ago, about 200 acres. And when I did, I made a strict bill of assurances with restrictions stating what can and cannot be used. And we did not want a development when someone could put in a commercial party house, restaurant, barn, whatever. So I had it in there that there's no commercial activity will be allowed, plus there's no noise or any type of disturbance that could disturb the neighbors. And it's in the Goodwin's restrictions, and it's in my restrictions. And everybody there who built their house with intention, they were protected with these restrictions. And all of a sudden, the Goodwins want to change for one house, one family to benefit, and everybody else is going to have to get stuck with the basic R2 zone. And their parties are loud, they have bands, and on weekends up to 10 o'clock, what does the rest of the neighbors supposed to do? We can't go out and enjoy ourselves. We can't have a picnic or a bonfire, whatever, due to the noise. And the traffic is getting unbearable. There's been people running off the road. There's been a lot of drunks, numerous reports to the sheriff's department, and one venue right across the street from us, which I'll have a copy of, 3 years ago they had a shooting, 2 people got shot, and we're scared sooner or later the law of averages is going to get to you. With 200 people at these parties 6 or 7 times a week, something's going to happen. And we strongly oppose that. We don't want one family to benefit and all of us others stick with the basic R2 zone in our housing.
Where's your property located, sir?
27412 Canis. It should be on the survey.
Southwest? To the southwest? To the southwest of the Goodwin's property?
It's right, no, it's right down south off of
South.
Garrison. And their road runs right through our property. And Dr. Spann, who should be on the web, the traffic comes right down through his house at all times of the night and day. And somebody's going to get hurt. They have kids there. And that's the main trouble when the party's over or when people are coming in, sometimes they get lost and they'll drive up to our house and our neighbor's house, and it's just getting unbearable. And that's the only commercial property in Ferndale in that area. And it's just not fair for everybody else to suffer for one family the benefit of a commercial venue just for income purposes. In her application, she states she's doing it to help pay for her house. So do we all want to start some business to help pay for our house? And also, which is misleading, she said it'll revert back to a single family when they sell. Well, they're not going to sell, so it's never going to revert, so it's always going to be a commercial venue. And Ferndale is a small community, and we want to keep it that way.
Thank you. Deborah Reynolds.
Chair. Just want to remind you, we do still have also one on the WebEx too, so if we have time, make sure we grab them.
Hi, my name is Deborah Reynolds, and I want to thank the Planning Commission and Mr. Moore for allowing me to speak. I currently live on Lot 4 of Reynolds Mountain Subdivision, and I also own Lot 6. It adjoins the Goodwin's property. I bought the property back in 1984 and subdivided it in 1996. Lots 1 through 4 have homes on them. My plans are to build a smaller home on Lot 6 for my retirement. I've already had the electricity put in and recently had the lot cleared. I will be the Goodwin's closest neighbor to the east. You have to excuse me, I'm a little bit nervous. My building site is only yards away from the Goodwin's home and feet away from their parking lot, also within feet of their proposed event venue. We are all zoned R2 single family and have bylaws. Over the last 5 years, the Goodwins have had numerous weddings and events, and the noise and disruptions can be heard from our subdivision. We thought what they were doing was within the law until recently. We did not know that there was any recourse until receiving our letters from the city of Little Rock. At times, our subdivision has had as many as 6 cars backed up at our gate trying to get to the Goodwin's events. They have all had to back down our driveway and into the Ferndale cutoff. And this is all mountainous too, hilly. And it creates a very dangerous situation. If the Goodwin's property is rezoned to a planned commercial development, our problems will only be compounded, especially my Lot 6. Okay, my concerns are noise from the traffic entering and exiting their property and people who are drinking alcohol and very loud. Like Julie said, according to Arkansas Bride magazine, they advertise that they can have up to 250 guests. They hold receptions outside, have loud bands, DJ music, loudspeakers, and even choirs. The sounds echo all around our area. Also, lights are a concern from the traffic entering and exiting the property. Lights from their venue, if they are approved, will be lights for the parking lot and pathways to their current and new 40 by 80 venue, and that will ruin our dark sky. Security. The Goodwins leave their gate open during all events and for many vendors who are in and out before, during, and after the events. This action leaves not only the people in their subdivision, but our subdivision vulnerable to outsiders both day and night. The Goodwins may know they're paying customers, but can't possibly know all of the guests that are allowed inside their gated community. Also, anyone can drive off of their road directly onto my Lot 6 and into our subdivision. We are all covered by West Pulaski Volunteer Fire Department. In the event of a fire on their property, we are concerned about how emergency vehicles can respond. If they have 250 attendees parked in their front yard with only a one-lane road with a switchback, emergency vehicles would have a hard time going up the mountain, especially if people are trying to leave. If a fire got out on their property, it could easily spread throughout the woods to neighbors. And also, there is a concern about our property values. They will be affected for those of us owning property around them. With such a nuisance, who will want to buy from us or live near them, making it hard or maybe impossible to sell our homes or land? Another issue I have is water. We are all on personal well waters. And we wonder if the water needs of the Goodwin's venue will affect or deplete our wells and aquifers.
In all fairness, there's 3 minutes left and 2 more speakers.
Okay. My other issue is septic, how they're going to accommodate for septic for that many people. And if approved, they're requiring to have what sounds like an open-ended amount of events 7 days a week. At 40 events a year with 250 people attending, that number could feasibly be 10,000 people per year. And how can they comply with COVID regulations? That's another concern. We all moved to the country for different reasons. Peace, quiet, nature, and wildlife are my reasons. None of us plan to be living next to a commercial venue, with all these unknowns and disruptions to our quality of life. Therefore, I am totally against the Goodwin's proposed commercial venue. It has no aspect for people living here. It only benefits the Goodwins financially at the expense of all their neighbors and community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. On WebEx, we have Dr. Michael Spann.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Real quick, I just have 2 questions. First one would be the response date of the EMS, the event that occurred at the venue, and then what vehicles were responding. If I could get a case number for that, I'd appreciate it. The second one is I'd like to know how big the septic system is for the Goodwins, and I'd also like to know when the last date of the service was. Specifically because everything from their home flows down to my home. Other than that, I yield the rest of my time to anyone else, and I do appreciate that the Goodwins bringing this to the city and the city taking it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, was Miss Fletcher Priest?
She's not here.
Okay. Rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Andy Francis again for the applicant. There's been some comments about the number of events. Again, it is no more than one event, one wedding event every weekend, occasionally maybe one on a Thursday, and one charitable event during the week. It's not 6 or 7 nights a week. I think they may have been referring to the Ferndale Center that is just south of Canis Road. I don't know, but there is another event center, in fact, 2 properties that are rented there. And regarding the lack of commercial designation in the area, the intersection of Ferndale and Canis is within the extraterritorial jurisdiction, and there is a cluster of commercial developments there. I think if you look at the zoning mapper, staff could confirm that. So, I mean, there are other events going on in this area. There are other commercial venues in this area. There was some discussion about the service of alcohol. My clients comply with all the laws. They don't provide alcohol themselves. If there is an event that wants to provide alcohol, they're responsible for providing it and complying with all the laws. And there is an off-duty officer, sheriff or police at every event where they serve hard liquor. So it's not completely unregulated. There was some discussion about more of an opposition to this as a zoning as opposed to the use. Again, my client wanted to try to bring this as a home occupation permit. They knew that the commercial designation was a concern for the neighbors. Staff encouraged us to take this route. We're happy to be here to take that. If this doesn't work out, we could look at pursuing a home occupation permit, but we're here to pursue the zoning. We're certainly in support of all of staff's conditions and comments. They certainly do, the Goodwins certainly do charge for the weddings on their property, but they do not charge for the charitable events, and not all of these events that occur here are weddings. So there is a mix of events that occur. There was a comment about Arkansas Bride magazine. Monty, I just tried to email you something which was a confirmation. As soon as my client saw in the objection letter the comment in Arkansas Bride magazine about the number of guests that they supported, that is something that Arkansas Bride does for every person in the wedding industry in Arkansas, and they did not ask my client to do that. That's not a paid advertisement. My client called them and asked them to make corrections to the article, and we did get an email confirming that they made those corrections. I just this moment tried to email that to Mr. Moore, so if you would please add that to the record. And other than that, I'm happy to respond to any other questions. If there are some provisions of a private bill of assurance, nothing that happens here today can prevent someone from enforcing their private bill of assurance in the court system if they think they have a right to do that. There was also a question about sort of are we letting the elephant's nose under the tent by rezoning? The city attorney is more than capable of responding to that, but you're the planning commission and you control the zoning, so I think you're in as good a position as any to determine that anyone who wants a rezoning, such as my client, is going to have to come here and request your permission for it. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Can you speak to the point about the question about the septic system? And I'm not real familiar with the septic system, so
I'll be
maybe
happy,
dumb it down a little.
I'll be happy to address it as best I can. I don't have any specific information on the septic system. I would point out that Little Rock Water Reclamation Authority did review this application, and they had no comment and said that it was outside of the area of service. The septic system at this property is under the same regulations as every other septic system in Pulaski County and probably also the state of Arkansas through the health department. So if there is a genuine issue, I think it's already regulated by other authorities, but I don't have any specific information to respond to you about the septic system.
So we
Anybody
don't
else got any questions?
Yeah, so we don't know whether or not the capacity of the system.
We know there hasn't been a problem to date. And this has been in operation for this, I think, the 6th year. So I think the fact that some of these problems that have been, potential problems that have been discussed have not occurred, I would submit that that's proof that it's not really an issue.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have 2 questions. Why did the homeowner, Mr. and Mrs. Goodwin, choose their home for this type of location or for this type of business? And second question, did they meet with their neighbors in the community before settling on this business and moving forward?
I don't have the answers to that, but I'll let my client, Andrea Goodwin, answer that.
Acres, and we've sold approximately 20. And so our 2 neighbors that live within the Goodwin 100 acres that we bought in 1987, they have not come to us with an issue. Yes, we did talk to them. I actually visited with Dr. Spann and his wife's real estate agent before they ever bought. I tried to be proactive with them. Tom Burnett and Ted and Kirsten Frederick are also property owners in the Tolson property that is 100 acres that accesses off of Canis. We're on Garrison, so a completely different neighborhood. We had purchased an easement through that property in I think it was 1987, but we do not use that for any events. Zero traffic, goes zero. You saw the picture of the truck with the gate. That gate is locked with a chain lock. And then you ask again, what did you say? To be honest, when we first began, obviously we have a large estate home. Jack Hartzell was our builder. When he built it, and Judd Tolson himself had sent pictures to my husband, like we can make our neighborhood and it's going to look like Big Cedar Lodge. So we did build a large house, probably larger than what we needed for our 6 children. Our 6 children, we've raised them all there. 3 still remain in the house. We sleep there every night. It is a large estate home, and when you have an estate home to the size that it is, there is a lot of upkeep. My husband's 67 years old, and so absolutely, with the cost increasing as far as maintenance, it absolutely provides a way for us to perpetually take care of the 80 acres and also our home without having to sell it. We want to be able to stay there through, some of our retirement, at least our kids graduating from high school. Our youngest children are 14 years old, our twins.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have 2 questions. First question goes to just if staff can help me understand why the PCD is the better approach here. What was the thinking behind essentially changing the zoning versus some other avenue that was perhaps more discreet and more focused directly on this property?
The answer to that question is the ordinance really provides for no other avenue to get to this point with this proposed use on this property. Special use permits, conditional use permits for R2 zoning are very limited, very specific. Special use permits are for residential uses, living facility type uses, group care facilities, family care facilities, group homes, those types of uses. Conditional uses are very specific and limited in R2 zoning to schools, churches, daycare centers. That pretty much covers conditional uses. Also accessory dwellings. Really the only avenue to address this is by way of a rezoning. You do have two types of rezoning. You have this type, which is a planned commercial development, which is basically a zoning that's tailor-made to this specific proposal. Your other type of zoning for this type of use would be, the option would be a C3 general commercial rezoning with a conditional use permit under the C3 district for an event center. The C3 zoning is a straight zoning. It comes with dozens and dozens of permitted uses. So it's more of an open-ended zoning. So this is the best option, really, in our opinion, the only option to address this proposal.
I know my
I guess I'm
neighbors.
struggling with the conversion from R2 to PCD when it seems that there's at least some opposition in the neighborhood to that. I mean, was this a close call for the staff, or is this something you considered to be routine that you didn't struggle with that type of change in character?
As a citizen, I promise you, and I would lay my hand on a Bible under oath. You can ask Monty, you can ask Alex, his predecessor. We do not want to be commercial. Our babies sleep in our house every night. I sleep in my house every night. We would love to be able to still support charities. We have not hosted more than 27 events in 1 year, ever. There are 52 weekends in a year. That's including charities, Women's and Children's First, the Women's Advocacy Center, Arkansas Baptist, the Heart Association. We have Arkansas Children's out once a year. Cart-Tie just called because they don't have a place for their incoming physicians to have dinner, and they would like to have a private chef's dinner on our patio because they really need 3 more physicians on staff at Cart-Tie. This is not a party house, and we did not want to ever be commercial, ever. We asked for a variance. I actually met with Marl's Gate and the Edgemont House, Chris Tolson in North Little Rock. North Little Rock has an ordinance where if you own an estate home or a home that's on the National Historic Registry, that you are allowed to do garden tours, charities, and events. To my knowledge, Little Rock does not have that. So if there's any way that we can work around this, trust me, we are the ones that want to do that because we want to be residential. But we would like to be able to share our home and our 80 acres with both charities, and yes, my expenses are large. My city taxes are $23,000 a year. My liability just to have people at my house is $1,800 a month. That's not my home insurance. That's just so that I can have Arkansas Children's come out and do a luncheon.
Got it. We got it. No, hang on. Parenthetically, your city taxes are 0 because you're not in the city. So for what that's worth. Any other questions?
Sorry, my question was actually to staff on that point. My question, I appreciate the additional input from the applicant. My question was actually more to staff and whether a conversion from R2 to PCD under these circumstances. I mean, you've recommended it, but is it something you had trouble deciding? Is this a close call in your mind, or is this sort of an easy call that really you didn't struggle much with?
Commissioner Ramon, when we first see this, it is always taken into consideration the property and the use. And I want to point out, and it was brought up by the applicant about a home occupation. This type of use is not a home occupation. It cannot be a home occupation just to the sheer size and the generation of parking and vehicles by our definition of what home occupation is in a residential zone. It is within our extraterritorial jurisdiction. And when we looked at it, when we make our recommendation, we make it based upon the individual site, the individual application. And, everything comes into play. What we hear from neighbors, what the use was, what has been used in the past, complaints that we have received from the location in the past. So we take all those into consideration for the zoning when we make that. If you're asking us if it was a resounding yes or no, it was in that mid-range because we did not receive, and if Monty can correct me, complaints, a long list of complaints in the past, for the area. But we have received, since the application was filed, recommendations now from some of the area residents. So it was not a recommendation that we took lightly. We try to look at it from what we have when we look at everything at the time we received the application.
Okay, that helps. My last question is just to confirm that the actual owner of the property is a natural person. It's the applicant and not like an entity or something like that, or a trust or some other form of ownership.
Staff is going to take me a moment to pull up a document and look at that.
Well, I don't want, it's not, the reason I'm asking is just because of the conditions, and it says the conditions is that the use will revert back to single-family homes should the ownership of the property be transferred. I mean, it doesn't sound like there's any intent to transfer it at any point. I just want to be careful to make sure we understand who actually owns it and what a transfer would mean if that's going to be a condition.
If I may, staff, I've looked at my title work, and the original conveyance was to Mr. Goodwin and a prior spouse, and by my recollection, there's a subsequent conveyance to Mr. and Mrs. Goodwin individually. So to my records, it's owned by the Goodwins individually.
I have one more question. If this is passed, are you okay as the homeowner, Mrs. Goodwin, that there could be other businesses that want to come into your community, your neighborhood, and open up a business, such as a car wash? Would you be okay with that coming into your neighborhood?
I'm saying this very respectfully. I mean, we own 80 acres, so obviously, we're in a state home. I mean, I'm maybe embarrassed to say, but the structure is about 16,000 square feet. So it can be looked as an estate home that anchors 80 surrounding acres that we own. And so our hope would be in our 80 acres that we own that we would have homes that would complement our home and that our home complements their homes. Because of the size and magnitude of our property, that is the reason. If I lived in Pleasant Valley, obviously this wouldn't be an issue, but I'm out in the county, and so I have 80 acres, a very expansive yard, ducks, chickens, guineas, dogs, cats, a horse that we just relocated to a little girl down in Canis. So I share it with others, yes, as a way to defer some of my expenses of owning a larger home as both my husband and I age and as our children leave the home. And what do you do with a big house on 80 acres? I when our builder built it, I mean, that's one reason why we have 8 exits in the back. You know, he built it for entertaining, and he used to talk about garden parties that we could do. So we've done this, really, we've had charity groups and groups out for 20 years.
Thank you for sharing that, but my question is, would you be okay, that's a yes or no, with other commercial businesses entering into your community?
As westward expansion occurs, if someone sells, then if it's commercial, then obviously the law of the land, then yes, we would be okay with, we would have to be okay with that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, a motion is in order. Whoever's making it.
I move that we vote on item A, the Goodwin Manor long form PCD.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. We'll do the roll. Call the roll.
Boy.
Just to read, that motion was a motion to approve the application. Is that correct?
Correct, sorry, a motion to vote to approve the application.
Okay. Commissioner Berry, Commissioner Benton,
Yes.
Commissioner Brock,
That's Commissioner Benton. Did you call him Commissioner Benton?
Commissioner Benton, yours was a no vote, correct?
It was a yes vote. It was a yes vote.
Yes vote? Okay. And Commissioner Brock, is he via WebEx?
Commissioner Brock is not in attendance.
No, okay. Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Vice Chair Hamilton?
No.
Commissioner Hart?
No.
Commissioner Haynes?
Yes.
Chairman Latour?
No.
Commissioner Ramon?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
No.
And Commissioner Vogel?
Well, I guess I'm the tie vote here. At this time, I'm sorry I cannot vote in favor of this. I vote no.
Staff, was Commissioner Berry absent?
The vote was 4 in favor, 5 against, with 2 absent. So the motion failed.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Item 2.
Item number 2, Mr. Chairman, I don't believe you have any cards on item 2. Do we have anyone in attendance via WebEx?
What is the item number, Z number for item
The
2?
Z number would be 4807R.
Michael and Jennifer Davis on WebEx.
They are not on WebEx. They're not on the WebEx.
Mr. Chairman, if you have no cards on this one, this item was on consent approval originally. We moved it because we were going to have a WebEx attendee, and if they're not here, we'll go straight to staff recommendation if that's good with you. Okay. So item number 2, file number Z4807R, Lot 1, Wellington Park, PDO, 2113 Wellington Village Road. Staff recommends approval of the request and advanced grading variance subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F, and the staff analysis of the agenda staff report. Staff also recommends approval of the variance request to allow grading of the northern land use buffer, provided the applicant replant the buffer with evergreen plantings at a minimum of 6 feet in height at the end of the growing season and plant it at a rate of 2 times the normal planting requirement of the landscape ordinance for perimeter landscape strips.
I'm gonna go a little bit out of order. I move for the approval of this item, whatever the number is. I move for the approval of this item with all staff recommendations therein and the recommendation of staff. Is there a second?
I second.
It is seconded. Call the roll, please, sir.
Roll call vote. Commissioner Berry. Commissioner Betton.
Yes.
Commissioner Brock. Commissioner Brooks.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hamilton.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes.
Yes.
Chairman Latour.
Yes.
Commissioner Rahman.
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
And Commissioner Vogel.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Defer item 4.
Mr. Chairman, item 4 will be presented by Torrance Thrower of our office. He's one of our new development specialists, and again, he'll present item number 4.
Is that all? Okay. This is item number 4, file number Z8411-A. Harold Rooming Boarding House Bed and Breakfast, PRD, located at 3221 West Markham Street. We'll lead straight into the analysis. The applicant requests to rezone the property located at 3221.
Are you going to read it in?
Reading from the analysis, the applicant requests to rezone the property located at 3221 West Markham Street from R3 Single Family District to PRD Planned Residential District to allow for the existing residential structure on the site to be used as a boarding house and bed and breakfast. The applicant's proposed use for the property is as follows, also noted in paragraph A. Proposed for PRD for 3221 West Markham Street, allow use as follows. The primary goal is a boarding house that will contain 3 bedrooms with a maximum of 6 people. They will advertise to professionals who are searching for a place to stay that will be 1 week to less than a 12-month rental. The bed and breakfast type of use for rentals is less than 1 week. This option will be used to fill gaps in scheduled bookings. Also to provide an option to all occupants for meal service. This will meet license and permit requirements. Shared common area will include a living room, dining room, utility room, office space, sunroom, back deck, and a front terrace. The structure is owner occupied. The owners will have a space in the downstairs bedroom. Parking has also been addressed, which will include 1 location on the carport in the backyard. Off of Brown Street, 3 additional parking spaces are available on the driveway on the east side of the house, off Markham Street. Signage has also been addressed. The applicant will create a stained glass sign with the arched front porch roof, provide ground level signage in the northwest corner of the front yard that will be 5 feet from the city right-of-way. This will also meet city ordinance requirements. The applicant notes that parking for 1 vehicle exists on the west side of the property from Brown Street, and 3 spaces exist along the east side of the resident that has access from West Markham Street. There is also a circular driveway from West Markham Street, which is located mostly within the public right-of-way. Staff will allow 1 vehicle to be parked on the circular driveway. On-street parking is also, will also be allowed along the east side of Brown Street. The city zoning ordinance would typically require 4 parking spaces for the proposed use. Staff believes that the applicant parking plan would adequately serve the proposed use of the property. The applicant proposes to place a stained glass sign within the arched area above the front door. This sign will be approximately 10 square feet in area. The applicant also proposes a ground sign at the northwest corner of the property, 5 feet back from the property lines and conforming with the city ordinance requirements. Section 36-552 allows a ground sign for a multifamily type development to have a maximum height of 6 feet and a maximum area of 24 square feet. Staff is supportive of the requested PRD zoning to allow use of the existing residence as an owner-occupied boarding house, bed and breakfast. Staff views the request as reasonable. The property is located on West Markham Street, a minor arterial roadway, and on the outer edge of the Capitol View Stiff Station neighborhood. The proposed use of the property as a boarding house would not be out of character with the overall neighborhood. There are other non-single-family residential uses and zoning scattered throughout the neighborhood, including R4, R5, and PRD zonings and multiple multi-unit residential developments. Staff believes the proposed PRD zoning will have no adverse impact on the general area. Staff recommendations. Staff recommends approval of the requested PRD zoning subject to the following conditions. 1, compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and E and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. Staff recommendation number 2, obtain a franchise agreement from Public Works, Benny Nicolo at 371-4818 for the private improvements such as fencing, landscaping, and circular driveway located within a dedicated right-of-way.
Okay, I have one WebEx and one card. Would the applicant care to address the group first? No? I can't hear you. Well, I couldn't hear if you were standing in front of me because I'm deaf. What?
She said she'll let
The applicant said let anybody speaking in opposition go first, and then she'll address.
Okay.
And the person on WebEx is not there. So the only person would be any cards in your hand.
Card in my hand is for James Smith. Come on up.
Thank you, Chairman and board members, for letting me allow to speak my concern. My name's James M. Smith. I live at 102 Ridgeway with my wife, Dorothy. We lived there for 17 years. And my concern is in the future, we're going to be downsizing and we'll be putting our house up for sale. My neighbors, Nan and Steve across the street, we were notified that they want to turn their home into a boarding house. And now my concern is, how's that going to affect the selling of my property? It's nothing personal. They did a lot of work. They tried to sell their home, and they didn't have any luck, and now they want to do this. So changing a single-family residence in an old neighborhood like Hillcrest into a boarding house is why I'm here. I vote against it.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioners?
I have one for the staff, I guess. Is this a workaround for the previous problem we've had with short-term rentals and other vacation rentals by owners or Airbnbs? Is that the method now that people will use to bring forward revenue streams for their homes?
Commissioner Vogel, if you're asking about what our future plans are for short-term rentals, I think is that where you're getting at, and how this affects it right now as it stands. Anything that is deemed a short-term rental for us goes through a plan development, just because of the nature of what it is. In the ordinance that we're preparing, that we presented, that the board has directed us, and we got comments from at the meeting that we presented it. There will be a distinction in the future between whether one is owner occupied and living on site, and whether they are not living on site. So whether the owner is not there and they just rent out the entire home, and then somehow we're going to have to do some type of distinction, and it hasn't been set yet for the ordinance of how that is heard. Ultimately, if it goes through a plan development process, which would seem to be the one that the owner not living on the property would go to the board for final action on some side of plan development, but the other could be handled as a special use permit style that would tie specifically to the owner of the property and that specific use. So if they move or sell, then that goes away. But this is not a end around that. It actually is the way that we handle it with this process right now. Whether it's and Monty or Torrance can speak to that, whether it's the bed and breakfast but any type of short-term rental, that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, that's correct. A bed and breakfast and a boarding house are both specifically defined terms in the ordinance. In this case, in most cases, you can do those as special use permits. The bed and breakfast use does not allow full meal service. In this particular case, the applicant wanted to offer full meal service to all of the occupants. So the applicant could have gone either way. We could have done a special use permit with variance or the PRD zoning. The applicant was more comfortable doing the PRD zoning since there was a variance involved.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
The applicant is here. Does the commission want to hear from the applicant?
I'm sorry?
Does the commission want to hear from the applicant? She chose to defer and hear the opposition first.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I thought she said she didn't want to speak. So.
The only thing that, I want to do is just to address his concerns, because we're at the same boat. I mean, my husband and I haven't retired yet, but it's not far off. And so we had to think of ways, it's a large house. It's got more room than we'll ever need, just the two of us. And so we had to try to think of a way to make our future work for us, right? And so he was concerned about the ability to sell his home because he may have to downsize. And I understand that, and that's why I think this is a good thing for him, because we all know that improved property helps you sell your property. If my neighbor improves their place, that helps me. So this allows us to continue to maintain our home. We've spent a lot of money increasing the value of our home, but this will allow us to continue that and add more value to the house, even more so than what it already is. So that's my point of view as far as his concern and what that was. So anybody have anything else they'd like me to address? Could you hear me?
Even I heard you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I have a question. So have you tried to sell this property before turning it into this?
Yes, we did have it on the market.
How long was it on the market?
About 1.5 years.
Okay.
Anyone else?
With that, again, I move for the approval of this item, including all staff comments and conditions therein.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Roll call vote. Commissioner Berry. Commissioner Benton.
Yes.
Commissioner Brock. Commissioner Brooks.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hamilton.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes.
Yes.
Chairman Latour.
Yes.
Commissioner Rahman.
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
And Commissioner Vogel.
No.
The motion passes 9 yes, 1 no.
Good. Thank you all for coming. Item 6, Mountain Park Edition, 9525.
Mr. Chairman, Lasagna Morris, one of our other new development specialists on staff, will present item number 6.
Item number 6, file number Z9525, Mountain Park Edition, PRD, located at the northeast and northwest corners of North Taylor Street and P Street. The subject property is comprised of 4 single-family residential lots, 2 lots at the northeast corner of North Taylor and P Streets, lots 6 and 7, Block 20, Mountain Park Addition, and 2 lots at the northwest corner of North Taylor and P Streets, lots 4 and 5, Block 21, Mountain Park Addition. The staff analysis. The applicant proposes to rezone the 2 lots located at each the northeast and northwest corners of North Taylor Street and P Street from R2 Single Family District to PRD Plan Residential District. The 2 lots at the northeast corner of the intersection are 1701 and 1705 North Taylor Street, with the 2 lots at the northwest corner being 1700 and 1704 North Taylor Street. The applicant requests to re-subdivide each set of 2 lots into 3 lots for single-family residential development. The lots at the northeast corner of North Taylor Street and P Street are 140 feet deep with proposed lot widths of 31.34 feet, 31.83 feet, and 36.83 feet. The lots at the northwest corner are also 140 feet deep with proposed lot widths of 31.60 feet, 31.83 feet, and 36.83 feet. The applicant proposes to construct 1 single-family residence on each of the 6 resulting lots. The 2 southernmost residences within each group of 3 will have a 0 side setback on their north side, with the other side setback ranging from 4.6 feet to 5 feet. The northernmost residence within each group will be set back 5 feet from its north side property line. All of the proposed residences within will maintain a minimum of 25-foot front and rear setbacks. Each of the structures will have a maximum building height of 35 feet, which conforms to the typical R2 zoning standards. These structures will be constructed of brick, stone, and hardy board veneer with aluminum and vinyl soffit and fascia. The applicant notes that there will be no accessory structures constructed on any of the lots. The applicant is proposing a double driveway within the rear yard of each lot. Each residence will have parking for 3 vehicles, 1 in the garage, and 2 on the driveway. The driveways will be accessed via a paved alley along the rear property line of each lot. The applicant has agreed to repave the alley behind 1700 and 1704 North Taylor Street. The alley behind 1701 and 1705 North Taylor Street is in good condition. The applicant provided responses and additional information to all issues raised during staff's review of the application. To staff's knowledge, there are no outstanding issues. The applicant is requesting no variances within the proposed PRD rezoning. Staff is supportive of the requested PRD rezoning to allow the 4 existing lots to be re-subdivided into 6 lots for single-family residential development. The proposal represents only a minor increase in platted density for the properties. The overall property at each corner is comprised of 1/3 of an acre. There is another example of smaller lot, single-family development within this neighborhood, approximately 1 block to the south at the end of North Fillmore Street. The 5-lot PRD development has lot widths of approximately 40 feet. Therefore, the proposed 6-lot development will not be out of character within the neighborhood. Staff believes the proposed PRD zoning will have no adverse effect on the general area. Staff recommends approval of the requested PRD zoning subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and E and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report.
Thank you. With the applicant care to come?
I think we're to evening now, so good evening, members of the board and staff. My name is Trey Kitchens. I'm a lawyer with the Brad Hendricks Law Firm. I represent Forest Park Partners, Terra Firma Project, and Billy and Jennifer Collins. As a brief issue, can we put up the area zoning plat that was up before? Thank you. If you will look to the east of the subject areas, lots 4 and 5 and lots 6 and 7, to the 3 structures that abut North Polk. These houses were developed by these same developers. They are familiar with the neighborhood. They are not seeking to put in cookie cutter houses. Each one of those 3 houses are unique, and each one of the 6 houses that are going to be proposed will also be unique, keeping in character with this particular neighborhood. With respect to lot 4 and block 21, that is actually the family home of Billy and Jennifer Collins, and they have lived there for over a decade. Their son, Chuck Collins, is the owner and operator of the Terra Firma Project, LLC. This is a family who has lived in this neighborhood. They know the neighborhood. They're simply trying to increase property values to develop the land for its highest and best use. I'm here to answer any questions that the board may have, and with that, if there's anyone speaking in opposition, I'd like to reserve the balance of my time.
Very good, thank you. I know we have a WebEx. Ruth Bell.
Oh, well, I'm glad to be back with you, but I have to tell you that I had questions about this item when it was on your previous agenda, but those were resolved, so I have no opposition to it now. Thank you. I hope to talk to you later today on another item.
Good deal. We'll talk to you on the other item. We have several cards. We have another WebEx, Susie Chan.
Yes, hello. Thank you. My name is Susan Chan, and I wanted to speak in favor of this proposal. I think that it is a good thing to have new housing built in the neighborhood, and to offer more variety in lot sizes. I myself might be interested in one of these houses. I live in the neighborhood already, in a house that's too big for me, and a lot that's too big for me, and I might be interested in one of these. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Great, thank you. I have a card from Elizabeth Drew, who says she does not want to speak, but opposes the project. John, I can't read it. John or Tracy Stewart?
I'm Tracy Stewart, and I appreciate the board and commission allowing me to speak. My husband and I live at 1606 North Polk Street, so we are one block down from these proposed homes. We are definitely in opposition to this. There's a number of issues of which one, Mr. Nallen, Reverend Nallen, is going to speak about the drainage problems, which are tremendous. Mr. Collins has stated he's already got the house at 1704, the one that his parents live in, which he owns. He's already got that listed for sale and has listed that the build-out would take 8 months. And again, he's already got that going. And he has stated that this is a charming neighborhood. This is a charming neighborhood. And I beg to differ with Mr. Kitchens, but these are cookie cutter houses. I don't know if the commission has the sketches, which is the one that's not up there, of the 6 homes that are to be constructed out of these 4 lots. These 6 homes are exactly the same square footage, exactly the same exterior plan. They are 5 feet from brick to brick apart. So you're putting 3 homes in 2 lots, and you're putting them 5 feet apart from each other. If that's not a fire hazard, it should be, but it's also taking these homes and completely changing the character of that neighborhood. Also, when you look at the amount of trees, which I know they've looked at all this, you're going to take out about 16 trees. And again, Reverend Allen will speak to those issues. When you look at the character of the neighborhood, these are homes that we bought this home as a retirement home. There are several people that have bought their homes as retirement homes. What we now see are houses that are going in that are shotgun houses. They're 2-story shotguns. And when they spoke about the homes at the south end of North Taylor, those were constructed years ago. And what has happened is if you go down North Taylor to the south, North Taylor basically stops, and there's just an L that goes off. These 5 homes are cookie cutter homes. They're 1-story. They have 40-foot frontage and looks like vinyl siding on them. They dead end. You can't even, you go down, you can only go to those 5 houses and come out. These were constructed years and years ago, and you don't really consider them part of the neighborhood. They're so totally different. So that's not in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. The builder has stated that the one alley is in good condition. You need to drive it. That is not in good condition. The alley between North Taylor and North Fillmore is in terrible condition. And when you look at what they just did on North Polk, where they built those 3 large homes, which are large homes on regular sized lots, and they sold for in the 700,000s. They're very nice homes, but it created a huge drainage problem when those homes were built. The alley between North Polk and North Taylor in the 1600 block, which is where we live, so much water went down that when you get to the very end of the alley, it's rutted. The ground is completely, it drops off completely rutted from all the rain and the water that's gone down that alley. So it's done a lot of damage to that property. In addition, when they were building those homes, the contractors were using the alley behind North Polk, between North Polk and North Taylor, and they just basically destroyed it. Now, the city has said for these alleys that they're no longer going to maintain them, and if they need to be repaired, they're not going to repair them. So both alleyways on the proposal will need to be redone, and that should be at the builder's expense. That's the main things I have to say. I don't know if the commissioners have access to the plans for these 6 homes, which I copied off the website. And what I'm seeing, no, what I'm seeing is just the plots. So I would like to pass these around if that's allowed. Is that allowed? To pass these? And you can keep them. But this shows, when I say that these are cookie cutter, this shows the character of these homes and the separation between from each home, which, yeah, we've got it up, which I don't believe is really in character with the neighborhood of the Heights area. So thank you very much.
Tom Herron. Tom Herron? Herrin? 1701 North Fillmore? Well, in the meantime, Scott Martin.
Thank you for letting me speak. I live at 1708 North Polk. Chuck Collins built me a house, and I love it. But we decided to build there because he has multiple lots in that neighborhood and promised to build houses of the same size and value of my house. I'm concerned that my property value is going to decrease if these smaller houses are allowed to be built. They're around 500,000, I would assume. I think it's a slippery slope with the precedent. If these 2 corner sets of lots are subdivided, I feel that he's going to do the same thing with the rest of the subdivision that he already owns. Speaking on the alleyway, I have started patching the potholes myself because nobody will maintain it. I oppose this strongly. I've got small children, and the traffic on the alleyway is terrible. Just today, it was blocked where I couldn't get through. Basically, I would strongly oppose this and would like this to not happen. Thank you.
Tom Herron. Last call, Tom Herron. Good night, Tom. Thomas Nowlin, come on up.
Good evening, distinguished commissioners. And in the interest of time, I would like to ask, could we get the picture that I sent staff of the North Taylor Street during a recent rain? I would like that to be up if possible, so that all can see, so that when in the interest of time, we can just go ahead and have that up, because I think that's going to be the most material thing that I present tonight. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. A number of my neighbors have been here tonight. Unfortunately, the hour has gotten late, and so some folks have had to leave, but many have also presented tonight. But many in the neighborhood are opposed to this proposal. I and others have submitted statements expressing our various reasons for why we think that this is a terrible idea. A lawyer friend of mine, I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance, kind of told me that I probably shouldn't have used the word deplorable in one of the statements that I submitted to you. I didn't realize that the word deplorable had become such a bad word. This proposal is really just an ugly proposal as far as I'm concerned. 2.5 years ago, I purchased this property as a retirement home for myself. I had no idea that these proposals were in the works or were even being thought about. But many of the statements that I alluded to, they are a matter of public record, and I'm not going to try to verbalize all of the objections to this, but I would like to emphasize two basic areas, again, in the interest of time tonight. Before I do so, I want to thank the staff for their help in aiding me. To be quite honest with you, I went to the website. I was trying to find data and documents, and there was nothing to be found. And Mr. Torrance here was very helpful in aiding me and sending me what was available at the time. And to be quite honest with you, no reflection upon the staff or upon the commission, but there was just not a whole lot of data there to look at and to examine. There were just 3 sketchy pieces of paper. I couldn't even figure out what the square footage of the footprint of these houses was going to be based upon what was presented to me. And so collaboratively, all of the neighbors had to work together to get the data to find out what the existing square footage of these homes is, and then also what the proposed square footage of the homes that are being proposed to be built there is planned to be. And so all we had were those numbers to go on. And so when I submitted my calculations, I mentioned that just so that you know those were the numbers that I had to work with. And what I showed was a 260% increase in loss of ground absorption water to deal with. And this is not really the picture that I was wanting us to see, but we're losing valuable ground absorption square footage up on top of the hill. And mind you, all of this water, and the city of Little Rock has a major drainage problem. I have talked with city officials, I have talked with real estate lawyers, and they have reminded me that there is a major issue with the way that water is being dealt with in the city, and pushing water from the heights down into the Hillcrest community and further down south into the I-630 corridor. Those are things that we don't think about. So the 200-foot notification that was provided doesn't really do justice to what the issue is here. Incrementally and cumulatively, every time we approve these kind of projects, we're pushing water downhill to the people who it's costing money. And I understand. We want to be entrepreneurial. We want to be industrious. We want to make money. That's the American way. That's fine. But it should not be done at the expense of the neighbors, the Hillcrest community, or those people who are further down the hill. Now, just south of me, and I live at 1607 North Taylor, I live right directly south of where this proposal is, where these proposed divisions of these lots are and where these houses are going to be built. And you'll see 3 or 4 inches of water all the way across the width of North Taylor in a recent rain right here. That is white water that you're seeing right there. That's what's happening now. And that really got bad after they built the 3 houses that were referred to up on Polk. So my neighbor below me has spent thousands of dollars to waterproof the underpinning of her house. And then my other neighbor further behind me is now dealing with water flooding down the back alleyway. Also, in a statement that I submitted to you, there is below in the green area designated by the City of Little Rock, there has been tens of thousands, if not $100,000 of city taxpayer dollars that have been spent to remedy a drainage situation that already exists there. And one of the things I would challenge the commission to do before they approve this is I don't have the access to that kind of data, but you do, and you can go see what taxpayer dollars are being spent to deal with the drainage issue up in the Heights area and trying to remedy what's going on down below. But there are two basic arguments here. There's an aesthetic argument and there is a material argument. And the aesthetic argument is that every time I show this plat on the proposed buildings, and with all due respect to the applicant, I try to avoid, in fact, the staff that I dealt with will, I think, attest to this. I try to avoid that term shotgun house because it can be kind of have that negative connotation. But every time I show this to someone, they're going, wow, those are shotgun houses. 28 feet across the front, I think it's 28 feet 10 inches, and 75 feet back. That is the floor plan of these houses. Every one of them are identical. So when with all due respect to the staff, when I hear that these houses are going to be in character with the existing and surrounding houses in the neighborhood, I will beg to differ with you. There is not even anything close to what is being proposed here in the neighborhood anywhere. So I don't know if you've been there. I don't know if you've seen what other houses exist there. I live in a house that was built in 1930. It is 90 years old. I just put a new roof on it. I'm planning on making all kinds of renovations. Unfortunately, the landowner, the property owner of these 4 houses has allowed these houses to deteriorate, and it just seems strange to me that they're using that as an argument that now, because we've let these houses fall into disrepair, now we've got to rebuild them. And I'm not opposed to new construction. I'm not opposed to them building new houses there, but I am opposed to taking 4 lots and dividing it into 6 lots and putting 6 homes in place of 4 homes. This is going to be totally out of character aesthetically with the neighborhood, and it's also going to be a material problem drainage-wise because we're just pushing the problem down the road, and the taxpayers are going to have to pay for the additional drainage problem that we're creating by taking away the square footage for water absorption in the ground, plus the effect of 16 75-plus-year-old canopied trees that are long established in the community. So to say that these are going to just be that these are going to be in character with the neighborhood is totally false. This is going to be totally different, and it is going to drive down property values, and it is going to create all kinds of issues. I even wonder if these houses will even be able to be sold. So what I want to do in closing is I want to recommend 3 things to the commission very quickly. Before you decide, please examine the most recent expenses to the City of Little Rock for drainage repair at the base of North Taylor Street in the green area. As Little Rock's taxpayers, we neighbors would like to know the total money spent on labor, equipment, and repairs, and how long it took the city to repair the drainage issue created by what you see right in front of you. Secondly, please conduct a drainage study. I was actually surprised there was no drainage study at all on file with the commission. It seems to me the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing in the city whenever we continue to advance these kind of permits that continue to create drainage issues and push the problem further down the hill. And then thirdly and last, if you permit this, we request that the builder be prohibited from laying asphalt or concrete driveways and sidewalks in order to maximize all remaining area for groundwater absorption. We also request that the builder be required to install water barrels for all gutter downspouts to impede and slow the advance of rainwater in order to maximize the opportunity for ground absorption of the water. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Any questions? I'm sorry, rebuttal.
I'd like to address the concerns that have been raised in turn. The first issue I would like to speak to is one of the objectors indicated that my clients were the ones who said the alley was in good shape, that it's not being repaved. Actually, if you read the report, it was in fact the staff that indicated the alley was in good shape pursuant to the report that's before the board. With respect to the property values, we're hearing two different things. We have people who have homes that are worth more than $500,000 that are concerned that these new homes that will go for approximately $500,000 are going to lower his property value, because I believed his property, I think, was in the neighborhood of $800,000. And then we have other people objecting because they have 90-year-old homes that are nowhere near that amount, but somehow that's going to lower their property values. These homes will raise property values, will raise tax revenue for this particular neighborhood. With respect to drainage, there has been a lot of comments about drainage. There has not been a drainage study because the drainage study is not necessary. If one was necessary, the city certainly would have been able to do that and conduct one. There has been a lot of arguments about this created the problem, but there has not been any sort of scientific study or evidence presented other than just anecdotal evidence that somehow these new houses are going to make a drainage problem worse. With respect to this being an ugly proposal, if he doesn't like the houses, he doesn't have to buy one of the houses. The houses are in keeping with the neighborhood. It is an improvement to the neighborhood. The houses were not allowed to deteriorate. Again, we can go to Lot 4 right now, and the people that are proposing to do this live there today and have lived there for over a decade. This has been approved, or this has been recommended by the staff. This is an attempt to improve the neighborhood. It is absolutely true that Mr. Collins owns several properties in this neighborhood, and it is in his interest for the home values in this neighborhood to continue to grow and exceed. That is his business plan. That is how he feeds his family. He is not going to create something to lower property values in this neighborhood. That would be completely counterintuitive to anything he's trying to do. Again, I now stand ready to answer any questions the board may have.
May I rebut, please?
Yes.
I did not say that I was value my house. I'm quite.
Excuse me, sir. Can
Yeah,
you
let me
please
get out of the
go
way
to
and
the
go to the
podium and
microphone,
speak
sir.
so recorded on the record?
I'm quite happy with the property value that I have, and I'm very proud of my 90-year-old house, and I will continue to restore it and to hopefully make it that much nicer for all the neighbors to enjoy. So I don't appreciate words being put in my mouth. I'm not concerned about my property value one way or another. I'm concerned about the aesthetics of the neighborhood. This will destroy the aesthetics of our neighborhood. It will completely reshape what it looks like. It will be an eyesore. The second thing is it is a drainage issue. If a material study was not done, shame on you. That is your fault and your problem, not our problem. And there is a drainage issue. And it needs to be studied and it needs to be addressed. And it's not just me, it's a problem for me, but look, this is a problem for Hillcrest, and this is a problem for the I-60 630 corridor. This goes all downhill. And it impacts multiple communities beyond the 200-foot perimeter set for the notification for this meeting tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. You done, Trey, or you got more?
If there are no questions, I'm finished talking. I don't need to just keep going on and on.
Are there any questions for any of these folks?
I have a question, and she has a question. Rebuttal.
One minute.
Well, you had your chance. We could go on back with you guys arguing back and forth. If you have a comment to us, that
I don't have anything else, sir. Unless there are questions, I'm happy to answer.
Why did he?
Quick, what was your comment?
Three of the four houses have deteriorated. The one house that has not deteriorated is the one that Mr. Collins owns that his parents live in, and that house is in perfectly good condition. He's going to tear it down so that he can do the other houses beside it. Mr. Martin's concern about other houses that Mr. Collins is going to continue, when you look at the initial proposal that he had done, he also had two houses on 1700 block of North Polk and one on Cantrell that he was going to turn those three lots into 5 houses. So this is the beginning of that, and it is not in character with our neighborhood.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioners?
Why is he choosing to build 2 homes per lot all of a sudden?
The 3 homes that...
3 houses, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think I understand your question. Sir, the 3 homes that are on the one block over that he built, those are $800,000 and $900,000 homes. What he doesn't want to do is he doesn't want to continue to build homes that would price people completely out of the neighborhood. This is a very sought-after neighborhood because of the elementary school that's right there. It's a very sought-after elementary school. By doing what he's doing, he's going to be able to build homes much closer to the $500,000 range, which is still a whole lot of money, but it makes a home more within the reach of younger families to come in and have young children in that school, which you can see on the map. That's the impetus to the plan, to not continue to build homes that would be so far out of young families' price ranges that they wouldn't be able to live in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Not a motion would be in order. I guess, oops, and how to make it. I move for approval of this item, including all staff comments and conditions therein. Second.
Second.
Move to second. Call the roll.
Commissioner Berry? Commissioner Benton?
No.
Commissioner Brock? Commissioner Brooks?
No.
Vice Chair Hamilton? Vice Chair Hamilton? Commissioner Hart?
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes?
Yes.
Chairman Latour?
Yes.
Commissioner Rahman?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
No.
And Commissioner Vogel?
No.
And we'll go back to Vice Chair Hamilton one more time. Is he present? No. So we'll enter an absentee vote for Vice Chair Hamilton.
Four yeas, 4 noes, 3 absent.
The motion fails. The motion fails.
Motion passes. I don't know the tally, but it passed, so thank you all for coming.
No, failed.
Motion
No,
fails.
it didn't. Failed.
Need a
It
majority.
failed.
Oh, it failed.
Fails.
I'm sorry. Okay, the motion failed. Now, item 16.
Walter,
Is this
there's
our last item?
Yes, it is.
Walter, I think there's a little bit of a slideshow, and you can just start that while I'm talking. We'll go over it. Item number 16, file number LA0088. The The project name is 15122 Cantrell Road Advanced Grading Variance, located at the northeast corner of Cantrell Road and Rummel Road intersection. The applicant's John Reese, represented by Jess Griffin of the Holloway Engineering Firm. The applicant is requesting the approval of a variance from the land alteration regulations to advance grade this site by clearing and grading approximately 3 acres of land. Granting the variance would allow staff to issue a grading permit for the activity with no immediate plan for site development. The dirt cut from the property will be hauled to the recently approved car wash development at 7706 Cantrell Road, which is owned by the applicant. The 3-acre property is undeveloped with dense tree cover in areas and slopes generally to the south, except where buildings and parking areas were once located from a past office development. The subject property is currently zoned Planned Development Office, PDO. A 3-restaurant PCD application for this property was recently denied by the City of Little Rock Board of Directors. East of the site's a newly constructed Tzatziki's Restaurant on property zoned Planned Development Commercial. West of the subject property is Rummel Road and R2 zoned properties. North of the site is a large 43-acre undeveloped tract zoned R2 single family. And south of this property is Cantrell Road and R2 single family properties, as well as the Happy Days Groom and Board facilities owned PDO. The applicant has agreed that grading will occur expeditiously and the site will be stabilized with the year of the issuance of the grading permit. Grading activities will commence just prior to or simultaneously with the construction of the recently approved car wash at 7706 Cantrell Road. Cut material will be hauled to the car wash site via Rummel Road to Cantrell Road. A gravel construction entrance will be provided off Rummel to reduce tracking onto public streets. Any damage to the city streets or infrastructure will be repaired by the applicant prior to acceptance and release of a 2-year maintenance bond that is required. Mud, dirt, or any debris tracked on paved surfaces must be periodically removed. Erosion control devices will be used during the grading operation, and the property will be graded to sheet flow stormwater and not pond on the property, except in a temporary detention facility that is to be developed as shown on the plan. Maintenance of erosion controls, detention facilities, and construction entrances will occur as needed during the grading period. When vegetation has been fully established, erosion control devices can be removed. Section 29-197-4 of the City Code states that the proposed plan shall provide for visual screening of the graded area by providing undisturbed perimeter buffer strips and earthen berms. The applicant proposes to construct a 4-foot-tall earthen berm adjacent to Cantrell and Rummel Road. However, all trees are proposed to be removed from the front, east, and west sides of the property. A 16-foot, to the north, a 14-foot wide undisturbed buffer strip will be provided. Cantrell Road at this location is in the city's design overlay district, establishing Highway 10 as a scenic corridor. Currently, about 35,000 vehicles a day drive by this property. Section 36-343 of the ordinance states that the purpose of the Highway 10 Scenic Corridor District is to protect and enhance the aesthetic and visual character of the land surrounding Highway 10. In particular, the purpose of the districts are to protect and enhance the scenic quality of Highway 10 corridor by providing for sensitive developments which maximize natural foliage and terrain while also providing planted buffer and landscape areas. In the city's land alteration regulations found in section 29-167, these regulations were adopted due to concerns by residents, members of the Planning Commission, and members by the board over the indiscriminate removal of trees, vegetation fill, and excavation of properties that were then left undeveloped for years afterward. The current regulations were adopted for the purpose of prohibiting this indiscriminate clearing of property and excessive grading, filling activity, and removal of the natural vegetation, impacting the quality of life. Staff recommends denial of this advanced grading request as proposed by the applicant. Except for that north 14 foot, the proposal is to remove all the trees on all the sides of the property. They are providing a 4-foot tall berm to kind of try to screen it off, but you're looking back at a hillside cut that's still going to be very visible on something located on the scenic corridor. There's also some concern from staff that very recently a proposal to develop this site was denied by the board of directors, meaning the underlying zoning is still in place, which is Planned Development Office. Having no prospect right now to go forward with future development, staff don't think it's appropriate to remove all the trees from the site and grade it at this time. I think it should wait until there's a plan in place, or at least a better idea what's going to happen there before we start grading the site. I want to kind of close by reminding the Planning Commission that it is within your discretion and authority to approve this variance. It rests with you. It's not appealable to the Board of Directors. The appeal would go direct to Circuit Court. Historically, you hear these cases almost every time you meet. You do approve them regularly, and some of them you never see because staff refuses to recommend an approval, and they never go very far. But you do have the discretion to decide how you should handle it. And our argument is basically based on the timing is not right for this, and it proposes removal of too many trees without knowing how long it will be this way at this corner on the scenic corridor. Thank you.
With the applicant, well, I have 2 cards and several on WebEx if they're still there. Jess Griffin is for the project, said he didn't want to speak, but he's certainly welcome to. And John Reese is the applicant. So between the 2 of you, however you want to take your time, go for it. You want to wait to the opposition?
Yeah. And Chair, I would like to say that, and correct me if I'm wrong, staff, that generally we don't count the time against the applicant. The applicant has as much time as the commission will usually allow. It's simply individuals who wish to speak on behalf of the proposal, whether for or against, that we run the clock. Is that correct? Applicant, to either of you gentlemen.
Typically, either side is allowed 20 minutes.
Including the applicant?
Including the applicant.
Well, I stand corrected then, I'm sorry. I'm unfamiliar with that procedure.
Okay. On via WebEx, we have Ruth Bell.
Oh, good, I get to talk. Okay. I am Ruth Bell with the League of Women Voters. We are longtime supporters of the Land Alteration Ordinance and the Highway 10 Scenic Corridor, and oppose the request to allow advanced grading of the site without immediate construction plans for the property. We feel the Scenic Corridor goal of providing an attractive entrance to our city along Highway 10 is more important than the applicant's need for fill dirt. And we ask that you deny this application. Thank you. I'm glad to be back with you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Jimmy Brown on WebEx.
Thank you, Commission. My name is Jimmy Brown. I live at 1561 Souls Road. With staff support, we're going to pass this property. We would just simply ask that you go with staff's recommendation to not approve this for really 3 key reasons. Number 1, as the staff has stated, there would be a variance from the Highway 10 district overlay, and until that that rule is changed by the city board, we feel it should stay in place and be honored. Number 2, I know some of the residents who live in the neighborhood directly across from Cantrell have some great concerns about drainage, which we mentioned several other properties this evening, and we're concerned about that. Number three, if you look deep into the application that was submitted by staff, it actually talks about doing a driveway on Rumble. This is a concern because, as you saw from that first picture, Rumble is a very steep road. There's about a 90-degree and a 70-degree turn between the access to Cantrell and where the top of this property is. Large trucks have a very hard time negotiating that. And when they do try to negotiate the 58 homes that live up that road for whom it's our only access, they block the road quite regularly. A couple times we see them come up there. So having large equipment accessing via Rumble would create an issue. There are actually 2 existing access points on Cantrell Road. It is correct that there was an application that was denied unanimously at the board of directors. There are representatives, 2 of whom are on the line today, Gray Williams and Dick Stoker, who are actively working with the applicant to try to come up with what will go in there. And we're simply asking that this be denied until there is an approved plan to go into this location. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay Hardman. All right, Mr. Reese, you're up.
Thank you, John Reese. Thank you for hearing our application. Seems like we were just here when this board so generously approved our site plan for the restaurant site. Unfortunately, the board thought otherwise, and therefore we're back here again. We do have a piece of property on East Cantrell, 7608, I think, Cantrell Road, that we are planning to construct a car wash, and we'll be tearing down the buildings now. You know, as soon as we obtain the dirt, fill dirt that we need, which is about a wash between this property and the other one. So until that time, we're kind of in abeyance. So I know that the neighborhood, I wouldn't say it's the neighborhood because it's quite a ways away from this development. And the thing that I don't quite understand is when you live on Cantrell Road, that you can control things to be built on Cantrell that's got 35,000 cars on it. So for a city the size of Little Rock to deny something like that, to me, is just strange. I know that what they're saying, though, regarding the trees, and we would agree to take the trees down but plant some trees so it could give it a buffer look on the front. And, of course, we decided, I know that we're supposed to build the 4-foot berm, which we certainly would be willing to do. We just would like to try to use some of the soil and the fill dirt that we have bought on this property, and we don't want to try to make it look like a pigsty out there, and we're not going to. If you'll, and we're also they're talking about they don't know when the property is going to be developed, and I guess I haven't said that because I'm not exactly sure, but it's not going to be like it's going to be 3 or 4 years. I'm not going to wait that long. I'm going to have something on that property, because I'm going to continue to work on it, even if I have to come down here every month. I'm going to continue to work on this property to get it developed, and it's going to look nice, because all of my properties do look nice. I pay a lot of taxes to the city of Little Rock, or maybe the county. And I think you can drive by any property that I have and say that that is a nice-looking property, and it's been a benefit for the city of Little Rock. So to think otherwise is foolish thinking. I understand what they're saying regarding like I said, the trees, and but we need to remove those, because it's not like those trees are going to be there forever. They're not. They may be there for another 4, 5, 6 months, but they're coming off. We can't develop anything unless we remove the trees and also lower the site. The site is several feet too high for us to have access into that property, And so I know the neighborhood would rather just have it sit there forever. But if they could pay me for the land, then I would certainly agree to that. But no one has stepped up to do that. So I've got to do something to develop it. And I would appreciate y'all's indulgences to know that I'm going to do my best to make it look nice. We'll work with Jamie Collins, Mr. Collins, and regarding planning back. And we're obviously going to seed it once we get finished. So it's not going to look like a pigsty. It's not. But we would like to do this work to allow us to obtain the dirt to move it to our new site on East Cantrell. So that's what I know this has been done other places, a la Rawling Road, when they took off 20 acres of trees, and it sat there for 4 or 5 years with nothing on it. A lot of people would ask me, John, what's happening over there on that road? And I said, I do not know. I don't understand it, but whatever happens, they got it done. So more power to them. So we're looking at 3 acres, and we would like for you to please vote for us, and because something is going to be developed there soon, and I'm going to make sure it happens as soon as I possibly can. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Please support this petition.
Quick question for staff. Sorry. Go ahead. You were going to say? I thought I interrupted you. I'm sorry. I have a question or two for staff.
Okay.
Is that all right? Great.
What would your question be?
Well, I have several. First, with 8 members now present, is there any issues that we need to be aware of that should be applicant want to not proceed? Is that something that we want to address, or is that, since we started with 9, now we're at 8, it's just the way it goes?
You still have a quorum. I don't know of any prohibition of proceeding.
Okay.
And we can proceed in the bylaws. If you remember, when we got down to that number, we did have a deal that a deferral was offered at the deal. The way it reads now is the applicant can still request one at that number, but it counts as one of their deferrals.
Got it. So since this vote is about to happen, I presume somebody's going to move and second it. What will the vote need to be to pass? Simple majority?
No. No, you
3/4?
it takes 6 positive votes.
6 positive votes.
Regardless of the number of commissioners present.
I think I want to say this on behalf of myself and our city. It's kind of a chicken or an egg. Which comes first, the development or readying the land for development? And from my interactions with people who do business around the Central Arkansas area, you know, what I have heard from them is Little Rock does not have the sites ready for development, and it's not as quick a process as in other communities. And I know this is a very sensitive topic, the acreage that we're talking about, but at the end of the day, I think it is wise of us on the commission to, you know, look a little bit farther out and help our city by developing some sites and readying them for when the opportunity comes. And that's just my personal opinion, and I just wanted to make sure I stated that here. I guess I'll make a motion that we proceed with the vote as staff has recommended, which is a denial. Someone to second that?
Your recommendation needs to be in a positive. So you need to make a motion to approve the application.
Except that of denial, right? Recommendation of denial.
Let's do this a different way.
I'll let somebody else do it.
I move for the approval of this item, including all staff comments and conditions therein, except the recommendation of denial.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded.
So we vote in the affirmative, we're voting for denial. If we vote no, we're voting for the approval, correct?
No, if you vote yes, you're voting to approve the application.
Correct. Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Berry, Commissioner Benton,
Yes.
Commissioner Brock, Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hamilton, still not with us. That'd be absent. Commissioner Hart,
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes,
Yes.
Chairman Latour, Commissioner Ramon,
No.
Commissioner Thomas,
No.
and Commissioner Vogel.
Yes. Yeas, 2 noes, 3 absent.
Motion passes, 6 yes, 2 noes. How many?
Thank
3
you.
absent.
Thank you, Board. I greatly appreciate that. I'll do my best. Thank you.
Motion passes. Anything else to come before the commission? Jamie?
If I may, Commissioners, I just wanted to point out, I've sent a email to 3 of the commissioners that their terms are up, so application deadline is October the 1st. If you want to, if you have the terms that you can be reappointed. Second thing is we're going to have 2 things come before the commission in the upcoming meetings. I haven't said it yet for either November or December. But we're going to look at the land use corridor that we need to discuss. The changes, as I've talked before to y'all, and we put it up there for everyone to access and look at. And then we also have an item, Walter, what month is it coming for the ETJ? Oh, did we? Okay. Yeah, it was, I just want to make you aware of that intent to zone. It was in that southeast corridor of our ETJ at one time. We did not extend zoning in the area, but we did extend subdivision. So if this goes to the board and does pass, we have to do some notifications and everything on the intent. We will be picking up that southeast area of our extraterritorial will be incorporated into our zoning jurisdiction by law. And that'd be down that Arch-Dixon corridor. And that's all that I have.
But Chairman Latour, before you adjourn on the last vote, what was your vote on item 16? What was your vote on item 16?
No.
No?
I think that's a pretty big change.
We heard that as a yes.
I thought it was incorrect.
So the vote was 5-3, so the motion did fail.
It did what?
The motion failed.
We need to go grab. He left.
Commissioner Thomas, yeah, I thought I heard 3 no.
I did too.
Enjoy looking at that sun.
Yeah, the sun was getting bright.
It's looking pretty good.
First time it's been out all day.
I'm telling you.
We'll notify him tomorrow we went back and looked at and reconfirmed the votes. I mean, the votes are what the votes are, correct? Attorney? That's correct. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh, boy.
Did we adjourn our meeting?
We adjourn?
That gal.
All right, thank you for coming. We're adjourned.